Yeah, good morning, one and all. So once again, welcome to one more lecture on fluid mechanics. Okay, so hope whatever the classes we have taken up to now, you understood the concepts. That is, to start with, we have discussed about the what is the broad classification of fluid mechanics. Then we have gone for what are the different applications, but what is the significance of fluid mechanics practically and day-to-day life, etc. So after that, the first topic is your properties of fluids. So in that we have discussed up to now some four properties. That is, the first one will be like your density. The second one is you have specific weight. Third one is a specific gravity, and fourth one I have discussed about your viscosity. So we have worked out some problems based on viscosity. Okay. So before going for other properties of fluids, now we'll see this class to start with. What are the different types of fluids? Now you all aware of what is the Newton's law of viscosity? Yes or no? Right? So let me just take yeah. So if you just take Newton's law of viscosity, that is viscosity, shear stress is proportional to shear strain or velocity gradient. This is what we discussed and we have worked out problems. Now, whatever the fluid which actually obeys this Newton's law is called as Newtonian fluid. Is called as Newtonian fluid. Yes or no? So Newtonian fluid is one which actually obeys the Newton's law of viscosity. Now you can see here this is the basic graph, shear stress versus velocity gradient or shear strain. So what happens here? This, if you have a straight line, means that is it obeys the Newton's law of viscosity, and that particular fluid has all the properties whatever we are discussing. Okay, so this is the straight line Newtonian fluid, right? Now apart from that, we have plenty of fluids, the different classification of fluids. Okay, so just we'll see what are those. That is ideal solid. So it's not at all a fluid, it's a completely doesn't have any property of fluid. So it's called as the ideal solid. Then you have ideal plastic fluid, then you have non-Newtonian fluid, then ideal fluid. Okay, right? So these are the classification of fluids, types of fluids. Now, first of all, what is ideal fluid? Now, a fluid which is incompressible or doesn't have any viscosity, that is incompressible. I'll tell you what is incompressible. That means, suppose if I say it's incompressible means with respect to temperature, it doesn't have any changes. Okay, so that's called as incompressible. So whatever the change, if I subject some force, it won't change its shape. Okay, it will just take the shape of the vessel. So that's why it's called as a fluid, right? Right. So that fluid now it's called as incompressible. So most of the fluids are incompressible. Like water is incompressible fluid, and you have oil which is incompressible. But when you come for gas or air, it doesn't comes under incompressible. It's called as compressible fluid. What is compressible means? If you just subject a gas or air some pressure or force, what will happen? It will change its properties like temperature, pressure, etc. That's why it's called as compressible. So just remember, a compressible fluids are one which are you can compress it, but incompressible one, even if you compress it, doesn't have any effect. So water is incompressible fluid. So if ideal means doesn't obey Newton's law of viscosity. See here the x-axis. That means it doesn't have any viscosity. So whenever if I say it obeys viscosity, then only I can say it's a Newtonian fluid. Now this doesn't have any viscosity, then obviously it is called as ideal fluid. So normally nowhere in your nature you have ideal fluids, because any fluid, even water, has some sort of viscosity, oils. So any fluid has some viscosity. That's why it's called as the imaginary fluid. So ideal fluid is called as imaginary fluid. You see here, I just mentioned here, imaginary fluid. Right? Now, what is the second classification? A real fluid. So real fluid is, this is the actually all fluids comes under this classification, that is real fluid. So real fluid is one which obeys the Newton's law, also possesses viscosity, also possesses viscosity. That's why it's a all the fluids in practice is generally real fluids. Okay, that's the ideal fluid and real fluid. So one more classification, Newtonian fluid and non-Newtonian fluid. So Newtonian fluid is one which obeys the Newton's law of viscosity. That is, shear stress is proportional to velocity gradient or shear strain. Okay, non-Newtonian fluid doesn't obey, so that's why it's doesn't have that relation. So that's why see it's like a curve. Non-Newtonian fluid is like a curve. So this is a direct relation. That's a Newtonian fluid. So that's why it's called as non-Newtonian fluid. And one more last section is what is a plastic fluid. So in case of ideal plastic fluid, shear stress, that means once you make some movement, it will just deform and remains in that particular state. That's called as a plastic fluid. So what happens in your fluid, normal fluid, if you take real fluids, you just subject some force, it will move somewhat and it will just change direction like that. But what happens when you have plastic fluid, the shear stress is more than the yield value and shear stress is proportional to rate of shear strain. It is known as plastic fluid. So whatever the plastic fluid means, whatever the shear stress I am giving is more compared to the strain which is occurring. So if I am subjected some sort of a stress, okay, only a small deformation occurs, then it is called as a plastic fluid. More deformation, it's mostly it's a real fluid. Deformation in the sense, it may be a flowability, etc. Okay, so this is one type of classifications of types of fluids. Okay, so remember Newtonian, non-Newtonian, ideal, real, ideal plastic. Those are the classifications of fluids. Now, then we'll go for next property. Okay, so that's nothing but your compressibility or bulk modulus. Yeah, just I'll take that thing for you and you can explain it. Now you can note it down. One more property here, that is bulk modulus. Bulk modulus. Yes. So compressibility and bulk modulus. This is one more property for the fluid. Okay. That is what will happen when I apply a compression or force on the fluid. Okay. And that particular thing is called as compressibility. And this is just a constant, which actually constant, which actually measures this particular compressibility or deformation. Okay, so compressibility means suppose there is a fluid. Just assume that it's like this. If you just take a example, a piston is here. Now cylinder is here. Now there is some fluid inside this particular piston. Before piston, you have fluid. That fluid may be a gas, that may be a some sort of a water also. Most of the times, this compressibility or compression will happens only in the gases. Okay, so when a fluid is like a gas, so this is a piston and cylinder. So piston is one which actually moves to and fro like this. Or if I supply some force P here, it will move this side. And if I just take back, it will come like this. So whenever if I take it back, it will create a vacuum. If you just subject to some force, it will just compress this gas or whatever the fluid is available here. Okay. Now in this case, what is compressibility? So compressibility is nothing but it is the ratio. It is defined as the ratio. Actually, it is called as reciprocal of bulk modulus. Suppose bulk modulus, if I denote by K. Okay. Now it is bulk modulus is nothing but it is the ratio of increase of pressure by volumetric strain. I'll tell you what is this. So what is increase of pressure? Initially, if you just in this position, okay, the pressure is some amount here for the gas. Okay, so now what happens? You are moving this piston this side. Now because of this movement, that gas which is inside subjected to some pressure, subjected to some pressure. Now there is some change in pressure. Yes or no? So initially assume that there is a small pressure here. Because of compression, the pressure is going to be increased. So that is numerator, increase of pressure. Now what happens to pressure if it happens? What happens to the volume? So initially the volume is V. That is the gas in this cylinder will occupy a volume of V. And because of your compression this side, because of movement of piston this side, the gas compresses. Obviously there is a change in volume. There is a change in volume. So if I say there is a change in pressure by change in volume, the ratio is called as bulk modulus. The ratio is called as bulk modulus. Okay, so see here, V, volume of gas enclosed in the cylinder. P is the pressure when volume is V. Okay, and volumetric strain, that is change in volume. How much is the change? dV, a small change. That is initially volume V, and there is small change because of the compression is dV. You just take minus dV by V. So why there is a minus here means there is a decrease in volume. Yes or no? Because initially the volume is this much. Now the volume is only this much. So that's why decrease in volume, it's actually denoted by negative value, that is minus dV by V. So change in volume by original volume, that's called as volumetric strain. That's called as volumetric strain. Okay, right. Now what is bulk modulus? Increase of pressure divided by volumetric strain. So this is the expression, that is dP. If you assume that increase of pressure is dP, that is the dP by volumetric strain is minus dV by V. So this is called as your bulk modulus. Now 1 by K, 1 by K, that is inverse of or reverse of your bulk modulus is called as compressibility. That is compressibility. How far a fluid is going to be compressed. That is called as compressibility. So normally I said the compressible fluids are mostly the gases, air are called as compressible fluids because it is easy for them to compress. Okay, so I can easily compress those fluids because this is called as compressible fluid. So bulk modulus mostly applicable for your gases or air. Okay, understood. So this is the one more property, that is compressibility or bulk modulus for the fluid. Okay, now we just go for a simple problem based on this bulk modulus. Okay, now see here, the problem will be like this. The problem will be like this. Now see, determine the bulk modulus of velocity of liquid if the pressure of the liquid is increased from 70 newtons per centimeter square to 130 newtons per centimeter square. Okay, so I want to find out K value, bulk modulus of velocity. So my pressure initially is 70, now that is increased to 130. Now what is the corresponding volume? It decreases by 0.15%. So what is the volume change here? Around 15% is the volume change. Assume initially it's 100, now it becomes how much? 85. So it's a 15% decreases in the volume. Okay, so these are the things given. That is, in pressure is change is given as well as volume gradient is given or volume change is given. I want to find out what is K. So see, initial pressure 70 newtons per centimeter square. Now final pressure is 130 newtons per centimeter square. Now what is the increase in pressure? 130 minus 70. How much? 60. Now what is the decrease in volume? It is 0.15% or dV by V, that is a volumetric strain is around. So if I take negative here, mostly it becomes decrease. No, it's becomes a so 0.15 by 100 I have to take because it is a decrease in volume. So 0.15% decrease in the volume. So initial volume, if I say 100, so there is a decrease in volume of 0.15 as per our problem, 0.15 percentage. Okay, so this ratio is 0.15 by 100. Now just take this value of dV by V. Now don't worry about negative here. So dV by V as well as this is dP. Now what is the value of K value? So it is dP by minus dV by V. So 60 divided by 0.15 by 100. We just keep it. Then what is the value of bulk modulus? How much? 4 into 10 power 4 newtons per centimeter square. So this is called as a bulk modulus. Then what may be the compressibility of the fluid? Okay, so that compressibility is nothing but 1 by 4 into 10 power 4. That is a centimeter square per Newton. Okay, so 1 by 10 4 into 10 power 4. That's called as bulk modulus. Okay, so hope you understood the problem. Okay, very simple. That is K value is dP by minus dV by V. So this change will be given in the problem. This increase will be given. So automatically you're asked to find out K or compressibility. So that's how it's going to be. Okay. Now we'll go for one more property now. Yes. Now very important one is that is called as a surface tension. So surface tension. Okay. Now let me just yeah. Now, one thing I'll just give you uh, the examples for this surface tension and capillarity. These are two different properties. But first, I'll take what is surface tension. So, tell me how I can place easily one thin blade on water. We just keep the thin blade on water in the horizontal position. You can see that the blade doesn't goes down. It will just float on the water. Okay, that's one example. Second one, if you just see some insects and all, they can easily stand or they can easily sit on the surface of the water. Yes or no? So what is the why it's able how it's able to sit with its legs on the surface of water is because there is some force oppositely. So see here, this is water if you say, this is the water if you say. So this is the water and this above this is the air and this is called as free surface. Now what I mean here, so here this particular what you call insect, it can easily sit here on the water surface. It won't sink down. Okay, similarly, I said on thin blade, you just keep it above the water. It will stand like that. The reason there is some sort of a force, what is you are getting opposite to the direction of the blade or insect. Okay, that is nothing but it's called as tension of the surface. So surface is offering some sort of opposite tension. So that is called as surface tension. So it is defined as the tensile force acting on the surface of a liquid in contact with gas or on the surface between two immiscible. That means there are two immiscible liquid means air is one sort of a liquid and your water, some water is one sort of liquid if you say, it doesn't mixes. So it is called as two immiscible liquids such that the contact surface behaves like a membrane. Membrane means a thin film. So it's like a membrane under tension. Okay, so I'll just show you maybe some examples. I'll just show you one thing. Uh, so just so just 1 minute. I'll just show you what exactly this particular surface tension is here. Okay, just me. Just 1 minute. I'll just take one more. Just I'll take one more thing. I'll just uh, give you what exactly the particular properties. Now, let me just take. Right. I can find that. So, okay, I'll show you once I get maybe upwards. Right. Now, just go for our topic now. So, surface tension. So as it indicates here, yeah. So what is surface tension here? So I'll just explain this in detail, maybe in next class. Okay. Now just I'll show you. I'll just tell you what exactly means by this surface tension. Now we see here, as this particular diagram indicates, okay, so there is a free surface. This is the fluid. I have given some examples of your thin blade or insect on the water. So how it's able to stand or sit on the thing, that's by means of some surface tension. So that surface tension normally it is noted by a term called as sigma. A term called as sigma. So where the sigma is called as a surface tension, and it is units for this is newtons per meter, newtons per meter. Okay, so right. So what is the surface tension now? So it is actually a free surface of liquid, like it actually acts as a membrane. Okay, now there is it is the very important property, because what happens, one more example I'll give you for a surface tension. So whenever the rain comes and comes to the atmosphere, it just forms in the shape of a small bubbles. It's like a spherical bubbles. Yes, sir. So the spherical bubble, how it's going to form, you just might have seen that. Okay. So that particular bubble is formed because what happens, the water is coming from uh, actually above, then the air is one which is acting some sort of a tension or force opposite direction. That's why it actually changes its what you called as shape, and you can see that droplets of rain is mostly in the form of a sphere, mostly in the form of sphere. Okay, so because why it's making as a spherical shape means, the reason here is because the surface tension or the tension offered by the air, atmosphere air, to the water which is coming as in the form of rain. Okay, that's the reason why you can see that is the one more best example for your surface tension. So the tension offered by the surface, it's called as surface tension. Okay, right. So in this case, what happens? Uh, we have to discuss about two things. One is, I said the liquid droplet. Liquid droplet, the same example what I just now given in terms of rain fall. Okay, so a small spherical droplet of liquid of radius r. Okay, so that particular liquid is like this here. Okay, now we have to discuss about these particular things. One is surface tension on liquid droplet, as well as you have one more thing, that is what is the surface tension on a hollow bubble. Hollow bubble is nothing but normally those who have this during your childhood days, you are going to play with the bubbles, no? So that bubbles, if you just see, it will be like how it's going to form as a bubble, and once it just goes, after some time it just flats down. That means it will just lose its shape. Okay, how it becomes like a sphere or spherical shape? Because that hollow bubble is under surface tension, because there is a tension offered by the air to the water. That's a soap water, no? So that is called as your bubble. Now one is a water droplet which is actually coming to the air atmosphere, that I have to discuss, and we have to find out what are the pressure or etc. Those parameters or surface tension of a liquid droplet. That's a rain droplet, and this is the hollow bubble what you play normally in your child days. Okay, so in those cases, I need to find out how much is the pressure, how much is the pressure in terms of surface tension, how much is the pressure in terms of surface tension. Okay, so this is how a droplet looks like. See, this is a spherical droplet. And once you just take a half section, so this is called as, so this thing what you are seeing here, the arrow marks, is the surface tension. Because of surface tension only, it will form as the shape of a what is called as a droplet. Okay, and obviously what happens, there is opposite pressure force, which is because of air. Okay, so because of air is coming. Now this is called as a droplet. Similarly, you have bubble. So most of the times we will be having problem like this. Whenever there is a droplet, what is the surface tension? That is, if you have P is the pressure inside the droplet, that pressure is given by 4 sigma by D, where sigma is called as surface tension. D is the diameter of the droplet. Okay, so this is the relation between the pressure of a droplet and surface tension. Suppose if you take a bubble, now it is in terms of 8 sigma by D, that is 8 times the surface tension by diameter, where P is called as pressure inside the bubble. Okay, so hope you understood this. Okay, so just take some 5 minutes, around 10:12 now. It will be like a 10:30 again we will join, and I'll just show you the some more examples. What is exactly a surface tension, what is the capillarity, and we'll see that we'll solve some problems. Okay, so for this session, what we discussed now, we have two properties. That is, one is a compressibility or work modulus incompressibility, and we have discussed something called as surface tension. Okay, so do join after 15 minutes, and we'll have a second hour of class, and we'll take some problems. Okay, right? So okay, so we'll meet at 10:30.